You probably remember pi from math class, right? 3.14, and then your brain kind of shuts off. But what if I told you that number? It's actually the hero of this epic, ancient story. We're talking about a quest for precision that spanned generations, led by some of the most brilliant minds in history. And to really get why it's so amazing, you gotta wrap your head around the insane challenge they were facing.
Okay, so here's the thing. The number pi, it literally never, ever ends. Its digits just go on forever. With no pattern, they never repeat. So how on earth do you measure that? Especially centuries before anyone had even dreamed of a computer. That's the puzzle. And it's a puzzle that totally captivated ancient mathematicians. And we're talking about an incredible lineage of thinkers here. You've got these early Vedic texts, then the genius of Aryabhata, Madhava, and way later, Ramanujan. It's this relentless drive, you know? They were constantly pushing the boundaries of what was known, getting closer and closer to a number that, by its very nature, you can never fully grasp.
All right, let's dive in. We're going to go way back to the very beginning, thousands of years ago in ancient India. This is where the first real attempts to get a handle on this mysterious number started to happen.
Okay, quick refresher, just so we're all on the same page. Pi is pretty simple at its core. You take any circle, I mean any circle, doesn't matter if it's a giant planet or a tiny coin. You measure the distance all the way around it, that's the circumference, and then you divide that by the distance straight across the middle, the diameter. The number you get is always pi, every single time.
So the first known approximation we find in India comes from these texts called the Solba Sutras. And these weren't just, dusty math books. No way. They were super practical guides for building these intricate ritual altars. And for that, they had a simple rule of thumb. A rope that goes across the middle of a circle will wrap around the outside about 3 times. Simple, effective. So their working value for pi? Just 3.
But good enough is never good enough for brilliant minds, right? A simple approximation just wasn't going to cut it. The hunt for more accuracy, well, it was about to take a massive leap forward. And it's all thanks to this incredible astronomer and mathematician named Aryabhata. Now this is where it gets really cool. The way Aryabhata shared his discovery, it wasn't just some boring formula in a book. It was actually poetry. He hid this complex, precise set of instructions for calculating pi inside a single line of Sanskrit verse. It's like finding a secret code in an ancient poem. Okay, so let's crack this code. The verse basically tells you to do this. Take 100, add 4 to it. Then multiply that whole thing by 8, and finally add 62,000. Aryabhata then says, hey, that number you just got, that's roughly the circumference of a circle that has a diameter of 20,000. So, if you do the math, what number do you actually end up with for pi?
You get 3.1416. Let that sink in for a second. For the 6th century, that is an insanely accurate number. We're talking correct to 4 decimal places. Aryabhata didn't just improve on the old rule of 3, he absolutely blew it out of the water. He set a whole new standard for precision that would be the benchmark for hundreds of years. All right, so for almost 1,000 years, Aryabhata's 3.1416 was the gold standard. It was the best anyone had. But then, in the 14th century, a mathematician from what's known as the Kerala School of Astronomy and Mathematics came along and just changed the entire game. He was about to take the idea of pi into a whole new dimension, the infinite.
Now, to really get how big of a deal this was, you got to remember how people were trying to solve this problem before. The best minds, like the legendary Greek mathematician Archimedes, were using geometry. His famous method was to basically trap a circle between 2 shapes, like hexagons or octagons, one inside and one outside. By adding more and more sides to those shapes, you could kind of squeeze or corner the true value of pi. But it was all based on drawing finite shapes.
What Madhava did was a total paradigm shift. He threw out the shapes entirely. He decided to tackle the problem with just pure numbers. He took that same idea of getting closer and closer and closer, but instead of using geometry, he did it with arithmetic, with an endless, infinite series of additions and subtractions. So you might be asking, why? Why did they suddenly need this crazy level of precision? Well, the answer wasn't on Earth, it was in the stars. Madhava and the other brilliant minds at the Kerala School were deep into astronomy. It was a huge part of the traditional Indian system of Jyotisha, and if you want to accurately map the movements of the planets and stars, you better have a really good value for pi. To map the heavens, they first needed a perfect map of the circle.
And this is where his genius just shines. Madhava figured out that you could actually write pi as a sum of fractions that literally goes on forever. Think about it like this. Imagine trying to walk to a wall. First, you take a big step forward, then a smaller step back, then an even smaller step forward, then an even tinier one back. You're always getting closer and closer to the wall, but you're doing it with an infinite number of smaller and smaller movements. That's what he did with numbers.
And there it is. That's the famous infinite series for pi. The incredible thing is, Madhava discovered this hundreds of years before it was found again in Europe by Leibniz. And this wasn't just some clever new trick to calculate pi. This was a foundational idea of calculus. It was a gateway to understanding the whole concept of infinity, and it was all born from a desire to better understand the cosmos.
So, this incredible quest that spans centuries didn't just stop with Madhava. What it did was create this powerful living tradition of mathematical thought, a tradition that kept pushing the boundaries right into the modern age.
When you look at it on a timeline, the whole journey just clicks into place. You start with the practical, simple 3 from the Vedic period. Then, bam! Aryabhata comes along with his 4-decimal precision. Then, Madhava takes this mind-bending leap into the infinite. And that legacy carries all the way forward, inspiring modern geniuses like Srinivasa Ramanujan, who came up with formulas to calculate pi at a speed that is just staggering.
So in the end, this whole story, it's about so much more than just a search for a number. It's really a testament to this unbroken chain of brilliant thinking, this continuous tradition of mathematical exploration. They didn't just get a better value for pi. They pushed the very boundaries of calculation. They laid down some of the earliest foundations for what would become calculus, and they created this incredible heritage of genius that still inspires people today.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating thought, doesn't it? The story of pi from ancient India proves that absolutely revolutionary, world-changing ideas can be sitting right there, waiting for us in ancient knowledge. It really makes you wonder, what other incredible secrets about our universe are just lying there in old texts, waiting to be rediscovered?